So today we'll define what are the best steps to succeed in your global SEO strategy. We'll try to be as practical as possible with 5 main steps. Of course, it's a huge topic, so we could talk for hours about that, but we'll try to give you like the big thing that you need to think about and think that you should not forget to be as efficient as possible in your global SEO strategy. Before we start, I think it's always good to know who's talking. So Eugene, would you say a word about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Corentin. So I'm Eugene. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Weglot. I've been, Weglot is 7 years old now, and I've been at Weglot for 5 years. So I'm since a long time. Do you want me to present Weglot right away?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. So Weglot is a website translation solution. So what we do is we help our customer to display a website in multiple languages. So let's say you have a website in English today and you want to display that website in French, in Spanish, in Chinese, in any language. We help you do that in a few seconds. So it's a no-code solution. You install us. We are completely agnostic of your CMS. So whether you're using WordPress, Shopify, Webflow, we work with any of them, and even if it's a custom built website, and we help you to add a language switcher and display that website in any language. Basically, what we do is we scrap the website, the content of your website, and we generate translated version of that website, and then we give you access to a dashboard where you can manage your translation yourself with your translators, outside or internal, and with your in-house team if you have people that manage translation in-house. We help 40,000 customers today all over the world, basically mainly in North America and Europe. We are a team of 50 in France, as you might have guessed with my accent, and yeah, that's us.
Thank you, Eugene. Maybe a word about myself. So my name is Corentin. I'm French too, as you can hear. I'm head of international development at Semji. I've been in Canada for a couple of years before going back to France for lots of reasons, but I'm really happy to have like a bicultural thing. I've seen some people coming from Canada, so happy for you to be here. And maybe a word about Semji for those who don't know us. So we are a SaaS platform that mainly is used to increase the SEO content performance. So we are used by more than 400 customers in 15 countries. We can help customers in I would say 15 languages. So we work mainly with mid-market and enterprise companies that are all about performance. And when we talk about performance at Semji, mainly it's about, I would say 4 things: increase in traffic, increase in conversion, because traffic without conversion, it's nothing. And then it's about productivity. And the last thing is about being able to track the result that you have in your content production. But that's enough about us. Let's talk about the main topic of today. So today we'll try to give you, as I said, the 5 main steps that you can see here, and we'll have a bonus step. So wait till the end because we'll have a checklist to make sure that you have everything you need to ensure and to start on the right foot when you start with your global SEO strategy. So maybe before we start and we go into details, I think it's really important for you and us to have the same definition of what's a global SEO strategy. So I will just read that for us. A global strategy is a strategy that brings traffic and conversion to your target markets, taking into account your specific characteristic and those of your competitors in different territories. That's a long one, that's a complex one, yet it's really important to have those different notions. So one thing that you should have in mind when you have a global SEO strategy is there is no one miracle recipe. There is lots of different recipes, and you should harmonized all of that like in a global way, yet you will have to adapt for each and every market on which you are present. So that's really important, and that's key to understand for your global SEO strategy to be really efficient. First step, how can we define your target market? I think, Eugene, you can say a word about that.
Yeah, it's a question we often have from our customers that they come, they discover Weglot, and they say, yeah, I want to go global. I'm strong in France. I'm strong in the US. I want to grow in other countries. And they say, where do I start? Do I add 20 language to my website and hope for the best that it starts people start coming to our website? Of course, that's not
not a good idea. Nope.
Of doing things. What we usually suggest to them is, if they haven't already, to look at on a more business size and even on their current website today to check the data. And a lot of them are not doing that. And you can find some great surprises if you look at the current traffic and where visitors are coming from on your current website. You might be surprised to realize that there is one country or one language that you hadn't thought about that is already strong on your current traffic. Of course, so I gave an example, but you need to check your Google Analytics or the analytics that you're using. In this example, if your website was only in English and you had that traffic from France, Spain, Germany, Canada, of course, adding French, Spanish, and German would be the most relevant steps. Looking at that, looking at your competition, what are they doing, in which language, for which country, is the most logical first steps to look at, to decide. And of course, I would suggest to start with one language before expanding to one country, depending on how you want to grow, not adding 20 countries right away.
Yes, if you start with 20 countries, it's going to be hard. So don't do that, except if you already have 100 countries and then you want to expand to 20 others, but it's another discussion. Also, we need to talk about search engines because there is not only Google in the world. So, Eugene, do you want to say a word, and I can add things if you want?
Yeah, of course, Google is the leading search engine in the world, but there are others, and especially if you're targeting China or, for example, South Korea, where they have different main search engine and even browser used. It's important to take into account the different source of ways people discover your product. It feels natural and logical today to focus on Google and Google search, but don't hesitate, and maybe especially in 2024 with a lot of new things that are coming in SEO and in search, to re-challenge that and to know where your current possible leads in new countries are looking for a solution like yours.
Yes, and maybe to add a little thing on that, that's a bonus step. Don't only look at the main navigator or the main search engine of your country, but also look for the audience or the people that you want to bring to your website. Because let's take an example. If you are in the US, so it's Google-based, or the biggest one, biggest search engine is Google, obviously. Yet, if you are in the senior industry and you want to attract old people to your website, Bing is a good thing to do. Why? Because people will not change the search engine by default, and so they will be on Bing. So if you're in the senior industry, Bing is a good option. If you're in, you want to bring people that are really, really interested in ecology and things like that, maybe Ecosia is a good thing to do. So take that also into account to adapt your strategy not only to your market and not only to the big things, but also to the things related to your audience. And just think that SEO is not everything. We are SEO people, we are SEO specialists, yet we need to anchor our strategy in a business strategy, a bigger marketing strategy. And so you need to ask yourself some questions. And Eugene, as the CMO of Weglot, I think those questions, you ask yourself those questions every day.
Yeah. And we see, especially our customers, having those questions too often. Of course, if your product can't be sold or needs to be adapted to enter a new country, it's not the same as a SaaS solution that can be sold and used everywhere in the world the same way. So adapting to that is obvious, but important to remind. If you can't sell your product, or it takes a lot of time to set up the possibility to sell in terms of logistics or legal or financial, of course, take that into account. It's obvious, but don't forget that. And I was talking yesterday to someone who had exactly that. They have I think they are selling in 6 countries, but in each of them, the product they sell is different. So the way it's not even a question of how to sell the same product to different markets where the keywords could be different. It's also are my product the same? So even a higher question before trying to see how can I sell a product is, do I have the same product in the same country?
Yes, that's really interesting. The example I take like every day is when you type ski in France and in Europe, it's alpine ski. That's obvious. Everybody thinks that. But if you say that in Quebec, for example, it can be cross-touring ski because like the environment is a bit different. So you need to take that into account, and don't think as a French, don't think as a US person, don't think as a Canadian, don't think as Mexican people, think as a person in your targeted market. And that's really hard to do, yet it's really, really important. Now we've defined the target market, but you need to understand who you will fight. And that for every and each market that you will target, because of course, it's going to be different. Your competition will be different for each market. So to understand that, you need to have some KPIs in mind, and you need to know that by heart for each and every market. So here, the main KPI that I advise you to know are the organic traffic, how much they get, the number of position keyword, the number of index page, the number of backlinks. Why? Because those are the main thing that will give you some potential keys, some potential ways to work and to fight with them. Because if they have lots of keyword position, that means that they're pretty good on content. If they have lots of pages, that means that they're really good on technical. If they have lots of backlinks, that means that you are pretty good on authority and on net linking. So that can give you some first tips or first hypotheses that you of course will need to confirm afterwards. Yet it's really, really hard, really, really interesting, and it's easy to do. So here in like 2 seconds, if I am Decathlon, for example, I can say, okay, I have 3 competitors and that's what they do. So do that and see also the trends on which they are. If you see that you have a competitor that was pretty bad and now is at the top, it's not the same as if it's the opposite way. So make sure that you are aware about that, because it's really, really important. It's also about knowing your strengths and weakness for each market. And your strengths on one market can be a weakness on another, and the opposite way. So it can be your capacity to show expertise through content. You are able to produce lots of content in the US, for example, because you have lots of copywriters. Those copywriters are experts. They are, I don't know, doctors, experts in finance, whatever that you produce in terms of content. But maybe when you will go to France, it will be totally different because the law is different, because your competitors are maybe do have the same capacity and even better than you. So you need to understand what are their content strategy. So Semji can do that for you. We have a feature dedicated to that. To take another example, it can be about authority. What's the domain rating? What's the authority that you have in the eye or Google algorithm? So here, for example, you can see your domain rating compared to the others. And if it's quite similar as we have here, you will need to fight on another level. But if you are the one that we have here with a 19 out of 100 score, maybe it could be a good thing for you to work on that, because it's going to be hard to fight with the others because you don't fight with the same weapons. So you need to understand that. It's quite easy to do. To be totally honest, it's maybe 1 hour of work per market, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done.
Yeah, what we usually say is usually a customer, what you've done on your main market and main SEO language, you need to do the same. You probably looked online or use tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, use Semji also to check the competitors on each keyword. You need to do that for all your top keywords in all your market. And there is no secret sauce for that. Each market is different, and each language, if it's not a market, is also different. So if you can't do it internally, you can also hire help from SEO experts to help you for each market, but it needs to be done before going to the next step.
And to do that, you need to do it as if you were in the territory that you try to locate. So you can do lots of things. You can use VPN. You can use tools like BrightLocal. I don't have stocks at BrightLocal, but it's a pretty good tool for you to be able to understand a bit better. So we were on like a generic competition overview, but now we need to understand on each sales generating keyword, who are your competitors? Because as you know, for each and every keyword, your competition will be different. Of course, you will have similarities, but for each and every one, it's going to be a bit different. So depending on your resource, depending on the time that you have, you're going to go for the top 10, the top 20, the top 50, the top 100, depending on the time you have. But for each and every keyword, go for who's your competitors. So here, for example, on the keyword auto insurance, so a big, really competitive keyword, you can see that you have some competitors. You can see the traffic they get on the page. You can see the number of keywords on which they rank. So you can have like a more detailed view, and that's really important for you to understand who you're fighting on your main sales generating keyword. And you will need to do that afterward, and it's going to be this part. And before that, we need to tell you a bit about how we do it.
Yeah, as you said, there are there's quite a lot of tools. So Ahrefs, we know SEO's Quake also, who gives you you can decide for which Google search based in France or based in Italy or based in the US. It will help you to see the results based on a specific country. There is ways to do it in the advanced search of Google to say that you want results from as if you were in a specific region, but most of the SEO tools today help you do that faster. Or of course, as you said, use a VPN to make people and Google think that you're based in the US is also a way to do that. So yeah, there are quite a few options to be able to see the results of Google or another search engine, yes, depending on the country that you're targeting.
VPNs are not only to watch Netflix, it's also to watch. Then we know a bit more about the competition. Now we need to be a bit more practical. So the third step is to conduct a keyword study. That's the base. So to do that, what I would advise you to do first is on the keyword on which you're pretty good on your domestic market, translate them and see who's ranking and how they rank. So here you can see on the keyword car insurance, you have the top 3 with Jayco, Whole State, Progressive. You can see who they are. So they are insurance brand. They have pages that look to have a quote. That's the conversion on the page. We can see the SEO traffic. So those are huge pages, near than 1 million traffic on the Jayco page. So it's huge. It's going to be really, really competitive. If you're not a big player, you should not go for that because it's going to be too hard, too costly. And you can do that for each and every market that you are good on your domestic market. So you can say, okay, that's going to be my strategy. And so I will just adapt it it's going to be marginal, or I will need to change everything. We can be a bit more specific and go into detail. So here, that's one of our features. Let's say that you want to go for a student car insurance. So you can see who are your competitor. So Jayco, Progressive, Allstate, and the Zebra. But you can see also the content structure of the page. You can see what they've done. So you can understand what's the context behind that and what you should be doing if you want to rank on that. So of course, that will help you. You can do that by hand, but it's going to be so time consuming. So get help from tools like us to do that automatically. When you've done that, also identify new opportunities. It's not because you're really good on your domestic market that you need to do exactly the same. We said that before. And on some markets, there are some opportunities that you could seize that are really good and that does not exist on another market. So here, for example, let's say that you see that progressive.com gets nearly 300,000 clicks on the renters folder, and you have no page on renter insurance. If I were you, I would totally do it. Like, it's going to be like the first action I would do. Why? Because you have an amazing potential and it's going to be quite competitive. So it's going to take time. So you need to do that first. But if you don't know about it, you will never do it. So go for your competition, see what they've done, see what they are good at and what they get results. And so you can adapt your strategy. Here it's for one specific competitor, but if I were you, I would do it for maybe the top 10 because you need to seize all the opportunities that you have on your new market. And maybe we need to talk about that in Hungary a bit more.
Yeah, it was one of a good example, a practical example that we had from an SEO agency we often work with, and they said this example of a client they had where they sell heated tobacco. So you can see here the search volume in the US, and if you translate literally heated tobacco in Hungarian, you see that there is no search volume. It's just not because it doesn't exist and there is no market for it in Hungary. It's just that the way it's looked for online is different in Hungary. So that's where it's really important to do an SEO keyword case study to understand what are the high volume keywords, how are people looking for my product in a specific market. And you can see here that the search volume is actually even higher than in the US. Well, search volume, our data is always, it's not sometimes not accurate, but it's interesting to see the signs and the trend. And here, clearly, the keyword will be different one to target.
Yeah, we talk a lot about translation when we want to go global, but it's not a good thing to do. It's translation and adaptation, both together, not only translation. A tool like DeepL, like Google Trad, those are tools for students. If you want to be really good at what you do, you need to adapt. And that needs a bit of work. And why translation can be a bit tricky. That's a good example. So here in the US and in England, you can see it's the same keyword, trousers. You can see the intent behind the same exact keyword. In the US, trousers is for women. That's the intent that Google put forward. But in the UK, in England, it's for men. So if you have the exact same page translated, it's never gonna work because Google does not expect that from you. And even if by any magic you rank, you're first, but you propose some women trousers for men's, it's going to, like, the conversion will be awful. You're never going to convert. You're never going to have one sale. So you need to adapt also to the search intents behind a specific keyword, and not only to think about keywords. It's also about adapting what's behind. Now we know the competition, we know the keyword, we need to adapt technically.
Yeah, so the technical part is it's quite so there are several steps. The first one is the website. First question we often get is, should I do a separate website for my translated version of my website, or should I keep my current website and just have a solution to translate it? I'm biased because we offer the former solution, but basically, if I want to be as neutral as possible, it depends of your need. If, as I said before, you have a product that is very different from one country to the other, or a website, let's say you want a website with 200 pages in English and a website with 5 pages in French because it's brand new and you sell something different and you only have one product, I would advise to do one website per language or per country. It makes more sense. Of course, it's not what we do at Weglot, but it would make more sense for you. The downsides of it is you need to maintain several websites and continue to add content to each of them, and it's very time consuming. The other option, and what we of course do at Weglot, is to help you have one website and display that website in multiple languages. We are not the only solution doing that. We have also competitors, but the good thing is it's easier to maintain. And especially if you're a small team, and also if you're testing a market, let's say you don't even know if a market will be working for you, it will take you less time to do that. And if it doesn't want to kill it, than going to an agency, asking for a new website, setting the new website, not really mastering that website, and then the website is not updated and gets shut down after a few years. So yeah, if you're testing a new market, I would strongly advise to start by translating your current website, even a small part of it, not everything. And if it's validated and really you need a separate website for that market, do that as a second step. And yeah, globally, of course, performance, as always, is very important when you're setting up your website. So we help you with that at Weglot automatically. We set up a CDN so that the response rate of the website is as little as possible, as low as possible. But if you were to do a separate website, of course, see with your technical team that there are ways to understand where the visitor is based. If he's based in Australia, there are solutions like content delivery networks. So there are servers spread around the world to answer quickly the need for a page from a visitor.
Yes. Yeah. And I think one of the things that you need to take into account is your technical stack. If you have an old custom CMS and it's really hard to maintain, you don't want to maintain multiple websites with really difficult infrastructure. But if you have a CMS on which you can have like a multi-site like managed perfectly, you don't care. It's the same if you have a subfolder or if you have different domain name. So it also depends on the capacity technically that you have, and some like new CMS on the market or CMS that are pretty good can really help you to do that. So if you have an old custom CMS that have been produced and then maintained for many, many years, and you need to go global, maybe it's a good time to change. And I don't have any stocks in CMS. I'm an SEO expert. I'm not a CMS expert. Yet from experience, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
That's specific things that we talked about before, but we have three options. Specific domain, really good when you have a specific offer and you have a brand identity that will be a bit different for each and every market. And then we have other options with a subdomain and subdirectory. It's not going to be that difference between a subdomain and a subdirectory, especially from an SEO standpoint. Yet it can be a bit different depending on the capacity that you have technically. And I think, Eugene, you have some experience on that.
Yeah, it's a never-ending debate in SEO globally, but also for international SEO, whether subdomain is better than subdirectory. I think it depends of the situation. And yeah, subdomain, people say that Google consider that a separate domain, so it's harder to make it grow in terms of authority than a subdirectory. True, it's less true for a translated version of a website. So yeah, I think it's, as long as it's set up well with hreflongtide that we'll see just after, as long as you indicate to Google that your website is available in multiple languages, and that for a specific page you have translated versions, and here are the URLs, whether it's a subdomain, a subdirectory, or a country a specific TLD, top level domain. It's for me it's the same. Of course, it will grow a bit. It will take more time to grow a subdomain or a specific domain in each country, but it's not very different in the end.
Yes, and you talked about hreflang.
Yeah, for me it's the most important, and even John Mueller, which is SEO god at Google, said that it's one of the most complex things to set up in SEO. But basically what it does, it's a short code snippet, short lines of code on your website in the header that says to the Google bot when he looks at your website that this specific page, so I think the example here was Airbnb.com. We say, okay, this page is Airbnb.com. It's for the English language, but this page is also available in other language. Here are all the other alternatives. So here you can see Italian, Spanish for Spain, French, Portuguese, and so on. And you give to the Google bot the corresponding URL. Why do that? First, to let Google know that the website is multilingual, and also to avoid duplicated content and being unindexed from Google, especially for locals like British English, American English, Australian English. So they sometimes the content is very close and could be considered duplicated content. But if you say to Google, yeah, I know it's close content, but it's just a translated version for a different locale, don't de-index unindex that page. So that's exactly what hreflongtag are for. And Xdefault is just saying if you don't have the correct language that the user is searching in, here is the default language, which is usually English. But yeah, once you set up that correctly on all your pages and your translated versions, this is the most important to help Google index correctly your website and show the correct page. Sometimes, especially at the beginning, even if you have a page in French and the person is looking in French, for some reason, Google will still showcase the English version of your website. It takes a bit of time. And even sometimes there are the two versions that will be displayed, which is weird, but it's then the Google black box where they decide which page is the best for the visitor.
Yes, I think it's the most common mistake that I see, technically speaking. And for Canadians in Belgium and Switzerland, it's even worse. I see so often EN or FR, and that's it. Make sure that you are CAEN and CAFR if you're in Canada, and same for Belgium, for example, because it's different. from a technical standpoint, it's totally different. So, and I see that I would say like 70% of the time when I go into the hreflang and I inspect the code, I have that like every time. So make sure, even for big brands. We wanted to talk about metadata. I think that's really important. Also, not only about SEO, but also about click-through rate to make people click on your website. And that's something in which you are quite good at Weglot.
Yeah. Basically, once you decide to display your website in another language, the goal is to translate everything, not just the visible content. Of course, it's the step one is that your content is translated and even localized, that you said, Corentin, but also all the invisible content. So metadata is the obvious one. Even if Google says that they don't look at it anymore, that the title, the description, everything that is in the metadata that are translated. The second other thing is the alt tags. Same, it's not always used, but it's important still if you have an image with an alt tag to translate that alt tag in the new language.
Second most common mistake.
Yeah. First, have alt tags. So often people don't even have the alt tags.
And then translate it. It's not only a joke. It can be up to 20% of the traffic. If you are like in the lifestyle or the home industry, it can be 20-25% of your traffic images. So it's not nothing.
Yeah, and related to that is the not translation but more localization of images. So of course there are depending on the market, it might make sense to change the image. Even for content that is similar, to have an image that is a bit more localized to the specific language or the specific country. So just for better user experience and better conversion. So do that if you have the capacity to do that. I know it can be a lot, hundreds, thousands of images on your website, and to change all of them. Especially, it's not recommended to have content like written words on an image. But if that's the case, you should change that for localized and translated image in an article, for example.
Yes, that's important. And that's obvious, but sometimes not done too. It's to be able to navigate through different languages. And that's not only about targeting market, but that's also to enhance experience, because sometimes you will have, I don't know, let's say Spanish-speaking people, but they are in the US and they will prefer to be in the Spanish version of your website, even if they are in the US.
Yeah. And on that, so that's something Weglot provides, and we get that question often. So first, have a language switcher, so very visible, especially if you can in the menu, so people can switch language. If it's a language translated version, don't put flags. I know it's can be the go-to things to do, but if it's not a country-specific version, it's just a language-specific version, don't add flag. Like an American flag next to English will not work for a British person. Of course, we are used to that, and it's not a big deal, but
experience is not perfect.
Exactly. If you do country specific, of course, like British English, American English have the flags.
Nobody does that.
But if it's generic English, don't put flags, but make your language switcher easy to find. And especially, a second step is we often get the question of, should I do auto redirect? So someone in France is looking and is arriving on my website. Should I switch them automatically to the French version? We don't recommend that. It's possible. You can do it with Weglot if you want, because some customers really want to do it. We would tend not to recommend doing that, because if they arrive on a specific page, for example, the Spanish version of content might mean that maybe they are in France, but they speak Spanish. They looked online in Spanish, and Google decided to showcase the page in Spanish. So having them automatically switch to the French version might not be a good experience for them. They might not speak French, even if they are in France or elsewhere. So yeah, we would tend to not recommend that. Sometimes a good practice would be to showcase, have websites that do that. They say, hey, we have a French version. Do you want to go to that French version? Yes or no? Or just put the language switcher very visible so that the people can switch to their preferred language and then continue the visit of the website in that language. But yeah, don't force a change if it's not really clearly a sign from the visitor that they prefer a specific language.
Yes. And then one last step is to have the right resources. You can have the best strategy possible. If you have nobody to execute it, it's not going to work. So the first thing is to have the good human resources. And human resources are not only your own team. Everybody's working on a project. So make sure that you have the right local resources, because in terms of culture, for example, it's really important to be able to be in the head of your audience. And it's really hard when you are not born there or live there for a couple of years. So have some local support to be able to adapt also culturally. Have some top quality technical support. We've seen that. We talked about it just right before. We said that sometimes it's a good idea also to manage a CMS migration. That's a huge type of project. So have some top-notch technical support. Also have a good marketing and content team. It's all going to be about flexibility, about increasing your productivity, because when you will produce an article, it's not going to be only one article. Now it's maybe 2, 3, 4. It's going to take less time because you've already produced the first version, the master draft, but it's still work to be done afterwards. And find the right partners, because you won't be able to do everything in-house. Or you can, but you're Amazon, you're L'Oreal, you're those kind of companies. That's not everybody. So even if you are like big mid-market or an enterprise company, find the right partners to help you. Right partners, humanly speaking, but also technically speaking. Eugène and I, Weglot and Semji, we are platforms, we are tools. Yet, as you see today, we also are expert. So we combine both. So what you need to have is the local data that you can trust in. That's really important, and that can be really hard to find, because when you search for something in English, for example, do you know if it's US-based, UK-based, Australian-based? You don't know. So you need to be able to localize that. And if you are not able to trust the data, like it's going to be too hard. Like it's not going to be possible. You need to gain productivity, because when you will have multiple websites, multiple strategy at the same time, you will have so many things to do in one day. So you won't be able to do everything by hand. So AI is a good thing to do. In Semji, you find some productivity AI related features, for example, but you can do lots of things in Semji and in other tools. Centralize your action, have one tool. If you start having different tools for a different market, it's going to be so painful because as CMO, as CDOs, as e-commerce managers at the central level, it's not going to be possible, because you will talk about carrots and bananas. So it's going to be too hard. And empower your team. You need to have to trust and empower your teams. So you need to have tools that are easy to use. Not everybody is a specialist. Not everybody has 20 years in experience in SEO. So you need to have tools that are that can be used by juniors, that by people that don't know about SEO like 10 days before. So you need to have this kind of tools. So experience, UX, all of that is really important also when you choose a tool. And last, but that's also important, you need to measure the effectiveness of your action by market. There is some action that won't work. And that's the reality. You will have some failures. That's normal. So you need to make sure that you know that it's a failure, and you need to be able to know why. And that's why the configuration of your Search Console, the setup of your analytics, have tools to track rankings, all of that. It's really important to be able to monitor that like daily. Otherwise, it's going to be like a bit of magic, and magic won't work every time. So that's really important for you to have that. When done with the 5 steps, now the checklist. So it's a summary of what we've seen today. So you can download it. You have it in the chat. We will have it on our website. If you have not received it, we will send that to you. Feel free to ask us also, Eugène and I, but also on our website. So that's everything we've said today, but you can check them out. You can print them. Like give that as a gift to your team, so you have a do and a don't checklist, and so it's really easy to follow those advice. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Eugène, for sharing the stage with me today, and we will answer your question. Don't be shy. We only have one question by Xavier. So don't be shy. I'm pretty sure you have question case that you want us to answer. Feel free to do so. There is no bad question, and we'll be happy to answer that.
Yeah, to maybe answer Xavier's question, yes, you can do. You can have a hreflang entry with both the language and saying that it's the X default. So saying to Googlebot that this is the language I want people to see if their preferred language is not available. So yeah, usually it's English that people put as the X default version. But so yeah, you can totally do that.
Thank you. We had a question in the chat by Hans. Which tooling do you use for this step? And I think it was at the moment to have generic KPIs on your competitors. So my screenshot was on Ahref. So you can use that.
I think after that we mentioned a few other SEO Quake, SEMrush. They are usually the big tools. They allow you to get volume in different countries. Data can be more or less good depending on the tool, but yeah, you can do a benchmark in a bunch of tools and see what are the results.
Yeah, one of the things that you need to know also is that the data will be false always by those tools. It can be Ahref, SEMrush, whatever. The interesting thing is the trend and the comparison to one another. Because those tools are not based on the reality. They are not based on Search Console and analytics data. And even that data can be a bit tricky. So the interesting thing is to take trends and comparison to other competitors into account. But when you go to your own website and you try to analyze it with SEMrush, let's say, or it can be Ahref or whatever tool, and you go to the exact same data within your Search Console, you can be, okay, it's not, I can't trust that. But obviously they don't know the exact figures. Otherwise it could be like a bit weird. So the interesting thing is not to compare your data, your Search Console data, to SEMrush data from your competitors. If you compare SEMrush data, compare everything to SEMrush data. Or if you use Ahref, the same. But you can't do that based on Search Console data because you don't have an access to your Search Console competitors. It would be great, but it's not possible. Or you are an hacker, but I will not go on that field.
I think we have another question in the chat.
By Yvon. And
that's
happy to have news from you, Yvon. It's been a while. I have a question about your content generation optimization tech. Which LLM is Semji using? So that's for me. So we use Azure OpenAI. So we use OpenAI LLM model, and then we have some scripts and some capacity to retrieve fresh data. So when we want to generate an article, let's say about 1,000 words, will retrieve up to 300 different texts from the competition, so directly on Google. So if we are talking about, let's say, a fresh article, because we need to talk about, let's say, inflation or Iowa caucus or whatever, something that is pretty new, we are able to retrieve fresh data. And we are also injecting data from our own system, so our SEO recommendation, to OpenAI LLM, but the Azure system, but the OpenAI itself, for lots of reasons, but mainly security. And bias and all those things. But yeah, that's how we work. So we make sure that we have both fresh and so quality data, but also SEO optimized data. Thank you. Miles. Hey, Miles, it's been a while too. We have a client who has used separate directories of the top level domain to have a country specific content. Not all content is translated though, so they have multiple English versions of the same content across these directories, each canonically to themselves. I'm scared while I'm reading, I'm scared. Themselves rather than one specific English version. In this case, shouldn't they all canonical to one specific URL since they aren't actually different translated version?
Yes.
I think that's for you, but I can answer that too, but yeah, that's for you.
Clearly, that's you have the right solution. They should all redirect to the same original canonical. Say that there is one version that is the original based version, that the other version, when they are not translated, are just a canonical version. And once they are translated, to switch that to a hreflang structure where you say that it's the translated version of another content that is somewhere on the website.
Maybe for the less SEO specialist of the audience, Eugene, can you explain what's a canonical?
Yeah, canonical is just saying that you have it's the same content displayed several times on several pages, like several pages that are the same content. For some reason, the pages are the same, and just so Google knows which page to index between all those pages, you specify to Google, okay, that's it's several times the same page. There might be a reason for that, to do why you've done that. Yeah. But just say index just one page, and here is the page you should index. So,
yes, when you have a big e-commerce website or a marketplace, for example, and you have a big description, so you have a smartphone category, your Walmart, your Best Buy, or those kind of big e-commerce website, and you have how to choose a smartphone, what are the best smartphones today on your category page. But of course, you have multiple page because maybe you have 1,000 different smartphones. You cannot have only one page, but you want Google to index only the first one, because otherwise, for technical reason and crawl budget reason, you won't be able to index perfectly, like, I don't know, maybe 50 different category page. And it can be a problem if you have the same text on those 50 page. Exactly. For duplicate reason.
Yeah. Google could consider it duplicate content and index part of those pages or all the page if they are not happy with you. So yeah, important and hard to set up technically, but important to do.
Yes, but that's mainly for big website with lots of pages.
Yeah. Usually for small to medium sized websites, it's less an issue.
Okay. We were crystal clear. Nobody has questions. That's perfect.
My main feedback overall is first, do it. And we might have said a few times today that it's hard, that it's a bit technical, that it takes time. But we have often people come to us and say, it's been 3 years. I want to launch in a new country, or I want to add English to my website. It's been an ongoing discussion for the last 3 years. And for me, it's a big missed opportunity to postpone that all the time. So I think there are tools today, I'm biased again, Weglot, Semji, can help you do the first step easily, set up something without it costing thousands of dollars or euros and a lot of time. Sometimes it's good to not make something perfect, but to start with something, to validate the need, the market, okay, I'm bringing traffic, I'm bringing conversion to my business thanks to another language on opening a new market. And it will be also a good way to validate and to open up new budget to grow your international expansion. So
and if you are a product, it's maybe the less costly way to test the market. Because if you go for like big panels companies, I don't know, Gartner, Forrester, those kind of companies, and you ask them for a competition study, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. But you try with SEO, you make a keyword study, this kind of thing, that can be like a pretty good database intuition. So we have clients that does that, and now they are making hundreds of thousands of clicks. But yet the first point was, I just want to know what's going on there. So yeah, go for it, and it's going to be less costly than like a classic way to do it. Thanks, everyone. You have our email. Feel free to reach out, and Eugène and I and our teams will be happy to help you. We are tools, as like we said. So if you want demos, we will be happy to do so. If you need some case studies, you have a specific question related to you and your website, but you don't want to ask that now because it's confidential, feel free to reach out directly to us. It was a pleasure being with you today. Thanks, Eugène, again. And I'll be happy to see you again pretty soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.